Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Tea Talk Thursday. Yes, you guessed it. You are getting a double dose of Tea Talk. With this being the end of Breast Cancer Month, I felt it was important that I bring some other survivors on to really give you guys a glimpse of what life is like after breast cancer. I know that throughout the month, I've been highlighting it and talking about it, giving you guys facts. In fact, on Instagram, I kind of went pink, and you guys know I hate pink. I only generally wear it in October. So here we go. I am so happy this is the last week that I will need to adorn all of these shades of pink. But as Pinktober is coming to an end, that does not mean we should stop the discussion on breast cancer. It is something that we need to continually talk about because it does not just happen in October, even though that's when you guys seem to want to talk about it. I will continue to remind you to touch, feel, squeeze, do whatever you need to do to those boobs, get them checked. I will remind you to get those mammograms scheduled. And of course, I'm always here to answer any questions that you guys have. I am so honored tonight to have 3 breasties on here who are really going to give you guys a different glimpse into breast cancer. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves and we will get started. Sharon, you were off mute. You go first. Uh-oh, it looks like Sharon is frozen. Uh-oh. Is she frozen? Sharon, can you hear me?
You going in and out, so I can't really hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah, go ahead.
Will you introduce yourself?
I can hear you.
I want you to introduce yourself.
Oh, hi, my name is... Okay, all right, great. My name is Sharon Rivera Sanchez. I'm here in Richmond, Virginia. I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer in 2015. I'm a 5-year survivor. It was stage 2B and my right breast. And I'm a thriver as well. And I'm the founder of Saving Pennies for a Cure, which is a 501(c)(3) nonprofit cancer community.
Wonderful. Kimberly, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I am a 7-year ovarian cancer survivor of a rare form granulosa cell tumor, but just recently in August diagnosed with triple positive breast cancer. Rare in this instance as well, because I'm grade 1 and HER2, which is, from what I understand, is extremely rare. And so I am now have been a patient advocate for over 6 years, just making sure that people know, particularly African American women know about ovarian cancer. And now I'm going to be pushing and talking more about breast cancer as well.
Wonderful. All right, Neosha, your turn.
Hi, my name is Neosha Ponder. I am a 4-year breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed in April 2016, stage 2B, hormone negative, but HER2 positive. And I definitely use the hashtag a lot, touch your boobs. And I look forward to our discussion tonight.
Wonderful. All right. So those of you who know me, you guys know I am 7 years out, almost 8. So I'm claiming 8. Triple negative breast cancer. I am a patient advocate, all that kind of stuff. You guys know all about me because I talk about it all the time. But the first question that I have for you guys is, tell me your thoughts immediately after receiving your diagnosis.
I'll go. My first thought was, this is Sharon. My first thought was immediately death. I thought I was going to die. I started all of a sudden, I don't like trees too much, but all of a sudden everything was beautiful. The trees was beautiful. But my first thought, it's almost like in grade school, you're taught 1 + 1 = 2. You are just known like cancer equal death. So my first thought was immediately death.
All right. Anybody else want to go?
My first thought, I think that the radiologist left me a bunch of little crumbs along the way, right? When I did the mammogram, it was I can read in my chart, and because of course it's not my first rodeo.
Right.
So when as the radiologist was doing more of the mammograms, and then I had to come and do that second mammogram, and the language that he used in his test results, it was almost as if I already knew. So I had time to come to terms with it before it was technically said as
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Your turn.
Well, so don't laugh, but I have like very detailed information, and I will not be long, Tamika, I promise. So on April 8th, 2016, at 5:37 p.m., I discovered Clarence. Clarence invaded my left boob, and I knew exactly what it was when I touched it because I touch my boobs often. I don't search for anything, but I'm familiar with what they feel like, right? And I just adjusted my boob in a tank top, and I looked up. I immediately touched the other side to see if it was, another one or if it was balanced or whatnot. But I looked at the clock, and I knew. My heart kind of sank. I'm not gonna lie, but I was like, okay, let me get this doctor's appointment scheduled, and no family history. I had genetic testing twice, so my internal medicine doctor, my primary care physician, wasn't alarmed. But when I went on April 21st. I went, and my appointment was at 12:30, y'all. So when I say the day when doves cried, literally, it was announced that Prince had died at like noon, and my appointment was at 12:30. So I couldn't even process what everybody else in the hospital was like literally going off. Like it was at Howard Hospital in DC, so everybody Black. So everybody's like really devastated, right? Even the lady that checked me in, she's with her heavy Jamaican accent, she was so sweet. But I had never had a mammogram before. I didn't tell anybody that I had found Clarence because I didn't want to alarm anyone without any information. I am a social science researcher by training. So there was no way that I was going to not have the information before telling anyone. So after my mammogram, because I didn't tell anyone and I was 36 years old, I didn't know you ain't supposed to wear deodorant to a mammogram, right? So I didn't think about that. So after I had the mammogram on my left breast, I immediately went down to ultrasound, and the radiologist like burst in, a little older Black woman. She's amazing. She burst in and took over my entire ultrasound. She did the ultrasound, found a lymph node, looked at Clarence. She told me to sit up. She grabbed my hands and she said, "Are you Christian?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And I told her what church I go to. I go to a mega church here in the DC area. And she said, "Do you have family here?" And I started crying a little because I hadn't told anybody. So so that's what got me choked up. And she said, "You just told me you was Christian. So you gonna pray and you gonna go call your family?" And it was like an auntie moment that I didn't know I needed. She said, "I've been doing this for over 35 years. So I know what I see." And she said, "I was so alarmed by your age and your mammogram that I had to come do your ultrasound. And now I want you to go get your other breast mammogrammed, and I'll do an ultrasound on that one too." It was just, and it was all of it was just confirmation. So it wasn't. So I immediately was scheduled a biopsy. So this is a Thursday. My biopsy was scheduled for Monday. Like they rushed everything. They were so worried about me because I was so young. So I already knew I was ready to fight. I had a conversation with God already, like I'm not ready to go nowhere. I hadn't done anything. I still haven't done anything in terms of just life. I had just gotten out of school the year before. So I had not had really an adult life. And it was confirmation, and I was just really ready to fight. So that was my immediate thought.
That's amazing. I love to hear stories of first reactions and what people thought and all of that. And Sharon, that death is a very common reaction. And Kimberly, lucky for you, or unlucky, I guess, however you want to put it, that you kind of knew the steps and kind of knew what to expect. And I want to hope that that's making your journey right now just a little easier, because you're kind of reflecting on some of the things that you know. And as an advocate, I feel like, yes, there is a direct link between the breast and the ovaries, but hopefully that you have the information and you're armed. Neosha, so I don't know anybody that has a story that's as great as yours. And I say that because I meet a lot of young women under the age of 40 who have been diagnosed, and their experience is nothing like that. I know some people who fought tooth and nail to actually get a mammogram because no one wanted to give them one and no one believed them. And I remember saying to the one girl, you do not leave until you get a mammogram. And she stayed. She was there all day, and it ended up at the end of the day, they kind of squeezed her in, kind of like, just come on so we can get this over with. And of course, after the fact, everyone wanted to apologize, but imagine had she left and what she would have been dealing with, after the fact.
So the piece of my story that I didn't share, because again, I was trying to hurry up. I didn't want to take over because I have that natural ability. Yeah, my name is loquacious, so I have a story for everything. But my internal medicine doctor, I didn't know her because again, when you're young and in school, like I had school health care. Okay, so before this, I had school health care until the end of 2015. And then I signed up for Obamacare at the end of December because that was open enrollment and I hadn't found a full-time job. So my Obamacare went through and got approved like in March 2016. So it was just divine order. Mm-hmm. Like 2 weeks later, almost 2 weeks later, I found clearance. So when I went to my primary care physician on April 18th, and again, I didn't know her because my old one had moved on. She was not alarmed. She was not worried. She was so nonchalant. She was like, "Oh, it could be a cyst. It could be a gland." And she was just saying all this stuff that I was somewhat already kind of familiar with. And I was just like, "Yeah, I don't carry cysts in my boobs. Like, I don't do that. I know my body." And so she was like, "Okay, well, let me just go ahead and, write up the orders for you to have a mammogram and an ultrasound and an MRI." So I never got the MRI before the actual diagnosis because the mammogram was so like clear, right? Wow. So when Dr. Cook Sampson, when she held my hands and she asked me those questions, she then said, "Who is your doctor?" I told her who my doctor was. She go, "I know her. Get her on the phone." Looked at the tech and said, "Get her on the phone." Because she was so bothered by how nonchalant my doctor was, which then in turn made me a little bit nonchalant as well. Just like, let's just get this done, until we can move to the next phase. So I didn't expect such confirmation after a mammogram and ultrasound, before a biopsy, before an MRI. That's just how pronounced he was.
Wow.
Yeah. So when it comes to, and also when I checked in, the woman who checked me in, she was like, and like I said, she was from Jamaica because I asked her where she was from. So her accent was beautiful, but she was like, "Why are you here, girl? You young, you 36. Howard Hospital, y'all don't know. They real comfortable real quick." And I was just like, "What?" She's like, "Oh, and did you hear about Prince? Look, lady, I have a golf ball in my boob. Please check me in." Like, it was just like, we ain't cousins. And this is DC, by the way. That's how everybody is. So this not a, it wasn't, but she was nice. But I was just like, "Where are you from?" And then she told me she's from Jamaica. And I was just like, it was kind of almost like dismissive, like, you don't have a family history. Like, so why are you here type,
right.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that is very common. And that's one of the things that I say to people all the time. Don't let that be the reason why you don't press forward. But my next question for you ladies is, okay, so you've gotten this diagnosis and you are wherever you are in your life, whatever is happening. Once treatment is over, what are your next steps? And I guess, Kimberly, for you, your question is going to be a little different. So I'm going to let them answer, what are your next steps now? Treatment is done. What is your life like after breast cancer?
Okay, so this is Sharon. My life after breast cancer is advocating and giving back. So I first started giving, I started the nonprofit Saving Pennies for a Cure, where we give personal care items and household items to recipients that is actively in chemotherapy treatment. I had to change out a lot of my products doing treatment. So that's how I started giving back. But then I went one step further and started looking at research, because actually you don't want to see anyone go through what you went through, especially with chemo. So I started looking at research and got involved in clinical trials. So my life after cancer now is basically advocating, being a voice for the voiceless, and giving back. So that's what I do now.
Okay. Kimberly's going to go last because I'm going to ask her a different question. So if you want to answer, that's fine. It's to you.
So goodness, I'm still trying to figure that out. I didn't have much of a life, if you will, before cancer. So I am learning myself again. I am trying to get back into the professional world. So, thank God that I have a PhD, because it's afforded me the opportunity to teach part-time through treatment. Like literally, like I took off my wig in class one time, y'all, because I was like, y'all, look, we got to have a come to Jesus moment. And my students loved me. And every semester I do disclose. But I have had a lot of, I hate the word setback, because I know people have had like severe setbacks, but I did have a severe radiation burn for a year after my treatment was over. And I thought I was going to be I was interviewing for jobs, y'all. It was crazy. And then with the severe radiation burn, I had to go do hyperbaric oxygen treatment. It was a lot in 2017. And then 2018 kicked off with me having a deep flap surgery. One of my flaps failed. I ended up in ICU for a week. And then I had to use a different part of my body to reconstruct my other breast. It was just, so it's been like a lot of, so I've had, as of right now, and I'm literally a day away from my last day of recovery from my 7th surgery. So I've had I had 5 surgeries in 2018 alone. So I'm single. I don't have children. I've never even been pregnant. Hopefully it can happen. I'm not sure. I turned 40 this year, the day the pandemic hit. I was with Tamika actually the day before, so she knows. So it's got, and I don't even know if I should even share this, but because people be stealing ideas, but I feel like God's got jokes. And he's been laughing at me because I've been playing and stuff. I was so arrogant, y'all, finishing that PhD. Let me tell you how humbling it is to get sick and fight for your life for 3 years. So I just feel like, every time I make a plan, God laughs. And he still keeps me and sustains me. So it's just interesting that, and that's the biggest joke of all, right? That I'm not struggling. I didn't miss a bill while I was sick, and I didn't have a job. I taught when and where I could, but so yeah, and I don't have family with money. I don't know, none of my family helped me. So it was mainly my friends, sorority sisters, church, and any other angel God puts in my path. But in terms of after, I just joined a professional network committee in my sorority chapter here in DC. Literally just joined this week, and they are positioned to help people in mid-career, the sorors in the chapter, and to help them, navigate the professional waters. Some people may be changing careers, and in my case, I'm technically starting some sort of career. So, he's just giving me one day at a time. But I'm super blessed, like, especially during the pandemic when I ain't got no full-time job still. And I was able to move into my own apartment. I had a very hard journey with that, and that could be a later question, hopefully, because I don't want to go into that. But yeah, life after is one day at a time, man.
Okay. Absolutely. So before you answer, Kimberly, I think it is great how you stated how, we make plans and God laughs, because that's literally what happens is that, we put forth all these ideas, and oftentimes we haven't included him in the mix. And so he's like, oh, I got something for you. Okay, here we go. I'm going to show you what I do. But in the process of showing you, he still protects and keeps you. So it's crazy how that, all unfolds. So I love that you mentioned that. And I tell people that all the time, like, we have the greatest intentions, but God has the final say, and he's going to do whatever it is he needs to do. So Kimberly, my question for you is, so you said, so it was 7 years ago, correct?
Yes.
Right. So 7 years ago, you were, you were on this journey. You finished. You were done. What what did you learn as a part of the journey that now you're taking into this new journey?
Oh God, I've learned so much. The first journey, you said something earlier that is a trigger word for me. Okay. You used the word, I guess we're just unlucky, because that's in fact what my oncologist said to me when I asked her, why did I get ovarian cancer? I don't have any risk factors. There's no one in my family that had it. I didn't have any symptoms. I was training for the Chicago Marathon when I was diagnosed. Only symptom I had was extreme fatigue, and I associated it with my long running days, right? And my primary was the one who urged me to do all these different tests. And when we got to the pap smear, we found that the pap smear was abnormal. And I said, well, you know, in my record, my pap smears have always been abnormal, so that don't mean anything to me. But she said, but now you're postmenopausal. So I'd like to do a vaginal ultrasound. And I too had not had children. And this is another thing I learned down the road about risk factors for Black women with ovarian cancer. And no babies after 35, you're in that risk factor for ovarian cancer.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
All right. So I was diagnosed on the table because the ultrasound said it was a cyst. And I did a race the day before the surgery, letting you know that I felt completely fine, did not feel sick, and went into this surgery thinking it was a removal of a cyst. When in fact, it was stage 3 ovarian cancer. And so, you know, my relationship with my oncologist was weird. I didn't learn very much because I had a rare form. Back 7 years ago, the internet didn't have anything on granulosa cell tumor. I'm sure for the same for triple negative at the time, maybe 7 years back. When you typed in ovarian cancer, you got an infographic that said in 5 years you are going to die. And so as I fast forward through what I like to consider my survivorship, advocacy, and then activism, because that's where I'm at now.
Okay.
I learned so much. So of course, yes, when I said that the radiologist was, you know, throwing down little breadcrumbs, I have now a cadre of cancer researchers that know me personally, that I could say, read this pathology report and tell me what it said, right? What does this term mean, right? Before it was just me and my defensive oncologist not answering my questions and telling me I was unlucky. And, you know, this is just how it is. And you're going to do what I tell you in regards to your cancer treatment. Where now, this time around, when I was told, you all use different nomenclature in breast cancer. In ovarian cancer, we don't say cancer free. We say no evidence of disease.
Which is what we technically, so put a pin in that. Technically, that's what it is. But people like hearing cancer free. And so that's just kind of why that's what happens.
Exactly. And my surgeon said that to me. She said, Kim, we got it all. You're cancer free. And I was hearing her and going, she is out of her mind. I'm like, And so then after surgery, after I did the surgery is when I learned I had 12 months of treatment. Now you're trying to tell a person who was a grade 3 ovarian cancer, who did 4 months of treatment and 7 years in remission, that she is now, you caught it early, we got it all, and you got to do 12 months of treatment. That was the biggest pushback ever, as far as I was concerned.
I can imagine.
And what I did learn to answer your question more directly, is how I put what I've learned into practice. I told my surgeon, I told the radiology oncologist, I told my cardiologist, there will be no treatment until we have a comprehensive care team meeting.
Good for you.
You know, you all are going to explain every aspect of this chemo and this Herceptin and this radiation, and you're going to tell me all the effects it's going to have. My endocrinologist was in on that conversation. And so, you know, I want a comprehensive care conversation. And I think that that's so important in terms of helping people make intelligent decisions. And it also supports shared decision making. I'm no longer interested in an oncologist just telling me what to do and I'm going to do.
Absolutely. That right there is amazing. So a part of what I do in terms of like writing on my blog, you know, health and wellness is a really big thing for me. That is like a key message that goes across generally almost every article that I write in relations to health and wellness. You need a care team. And so I remember going into my first round of appointments. You know, I met with an oncologist, I met with the radiologist, I met with a plastic surgeon, you know, I met with the regular surgeon. It was so much. And what I did not like is at the time, it was back to back to back to back to back to back to back. So it was so much information coming at me. And I often said, why can't we all sit in a room together and discuss this? Because every person here plays a part. All of you have a piece to the puzzle. Let's put it all together and work it out. I don't know to this day why they still don't do that. I have no idea, but I encourage people, everybody, no matter what your ailment is. Recently, I just did something on diabetes, and it's amazing. You know, a lot of people know about diabetes. We know the basic information. For me, doing this and my research, there was so much stuff that I did not know. And part of it all went back to the importance of having a team and you advocating for yourself. So I think that is so great that you did that. And I have to wonder if part of it is because you had already been on a journey before.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. I did not have a voice during my ovarian cancer diagnosis. I cried a lot. I was in therapy. My relationship with the oncologist was awful. Any questions that I asked before my infusion, I would go into my infusion with bloodshot eyes from crying because she always felt the need to leave me with that parting shot. You know, I'd come in with research that I did find on granulosal cell tumor. I talked to her about the treatment plan she wanted me to do. And I said, you know, I'm learning that this is really aggressive. You know, I don't think this is for me. And she was like almost like, just shut up and eat your broth. Right? And subsequently, 3 days into the treatment, I was in the ER because my heart rate had slowed down, literally dying.
Wow.
And so, and when faced with her during discharge of that emergency visit, I just knew this was going to be the turning point for us. I just knew she was going to say, you know, you were right. Maybe, you know, BEP wasn't for you. BEP was the chemo plan, is an acronym, bleomycin etoposide cysteine platinum, I think is what it's called. And no, instead what she told me was, wow, this would make a great journal article. So we had a major disconnect in how we communicated with one another, right? Now, fast forward 7 years later, I got an opportunity to see that through some sort of bio, she was on a conference or something, that she had just graduated. Now, what she lacked in humanity, y'all, she made up for with impeccable surgical skills, because I'm still here. Right?
Absolutely.
But as advocates, we also, and particularly as Black women, we got to get out there. Our voices and our stories have to be shared, because you got to know that that type of relationship is not the right one.
Not healthy.
Yeah.
It should be supportive. It should be humane. Right?
Yeah.
And it should be, and it's also, it's not a passive relationship.
It's a partnership.
It's a partnership.
It's a partnership.
Shared decisions about your cancer care. We ain't gonna be best friends. We're not gonna be out here, telling each other secrets and braiding each other's hair. That ain't what this is
at all.
But it is a professional relationship of do no harm, and that means emotional harm as well.
Girl, you're preaching in here. You are preaching. And let me add this is that the other piece becomes, for some reason, we get in this shift where we are afraid to push back to our oncologists, to tell them, no, that is not what I'm going to do or what I want to do. And then to seek a second opinion. And I don't know where that has come from. I will say that I feel like, like our parents' generation, that was kind of the way they lived. It was like, well, if the doctor says this, then it has to be law. But I feel like we know better. But for some reason, so many of us will sit and suffer through something that we know is not okay, only because somebody said, oh, well, this is the best doctor. But it's not the best doctor for me if I can't have an honest and open conversation with her. She's not the best doctor for me. And I think that is something that so many of us miss. And that's the reason why when something is going on, we don't call back to our doctors because we don't want to deal with them. We're hoping, oh, I'm going to pray it away or it's just going to go away, and because we have to take those steps to develop those relationships. And that's why I am a big, huge advocate for getting a second opinion. Doesn't mean you can't go back to your first doctor, right, but you should get a second opinion always. And you need to let your gut guide you. Yeah. I don't know why so many women don't and have problems with it, but it is something that we definitely need to do.
Well, I want to piggyback on those two comments you just made in terms of my experience with the ovarian cancer.
Okay.
First things first, she told me, when I start pressing her about questions and things like that, and about the chemo treatment, she asked me point blank, do you want to live?
Wow.
So that stayed in the back of my mind, and it shut me down. It shut my voice, right? Like, okay, I'm tired of talking to you and trying to answer and I'm not going to answer your questions. And now when I look back on it, this was a scared person dealing with me. Mm-hmm. She was straight out of school. And she was probably real good at being a surgeon, but not so great at being the doctor. Mm-hmm. So all these questions, it was like, well, how can I shut this down?
Right.
And that's wait a minute. And your second point about the second opinion. I went to another hospital, teaching hospital, met with the head of that institution in gynecological oncology. When he sat down, he said, ditto. That was my second opinion.
What?
Yeah, yep, ditto. That's looking at your pathology. It's granulosal cell tumor. Ditto. Charged me $500 for a rectal exam and sent me on my way. So I want you all to know that everything is not everybody's experience, whether you're Black, white, older, younger, everybody's story matters. And we can't say, oh, get that second opinion because that's advocacy. That may not look like advocacy. That may not look like advocating for yourself. What if we have that sister who got my experience with the first oncologist and my experience with the second oncologist? All right. We have to advocate for her and give her voice to let her know these things can happen, how you should be prepared, right? So it's not always going to be linear. It's not always going to fit in boxes neatly. And, we need to share those stories and show other patients that you do come through on the other end.
Absolutely.
And you don't come through crazy.
Well, I don't know about
Tamika,
that.
my experience,
but I agree with you in that, and that is something that that's why I asked what was your first reaction when you heard the news, because oftentimes death is what we see all over the news. Everybody, all the cancer patients who are in all these sitcoms, they look all sickly and all whatever, and at the end they end up dying. And I hate that, and I'm always like, every time you put somebody in your show who does that, you need to donate $10,000 instantly to a breast cancer organization. Like just write the check. But I completely agree is that it is important that we share our experience and our journey and what happened in the journey, what happened in the midst of it, and that help people be prepared. So my husband wants me to share basically why I ended up switching surgeons before my double mastectomy. So I switched hospitals right after I was diagnosed, because some researchers that I had spoken to, in addition to just a feeling that I had at the first, it was a lot going on. Apparently they had reorgs going on with the people. And I felt in all the appointments I was at, I was rushed. It was like, come on, get in here. Let me sign off. Okay. And it was like, okay, next. And it was so much happening that I was like, wait, I can't even process all of this. And then I remember seeing one plastic surgeon, and he treated me like I was a housewife who just wanted new boobs. And I remember leaving his office. Before I even left the office, I said to him, I'm not here because I want new boobs. Like, I'm fine with these boobs. They're just not fine with me. And you need to get better. You need to get better. But fast forward, I go to my new place, which I love. You know, I know a lot of people there. You know, it's a teaching hospital, so much going on. Fine. So my surgeon, my oncologist generally works with a specific person who handles the reconstruction end. So of course, now I'm at a new place. I got to go through the same round of appointments. So we go to the appointment for the plastics, and we're waiting. We're waiting and 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 we're waiting. So finally we get into the room, and the assistants come in, and she gives me all this paperwork to fill out. And I am immediately annoyed, instantly agitated. And I'm like, isn't all this stuff in the computer? And she's like, well, you know, we still need you to fill it out. I sat out in that waiting area for 2 hours. Why didn't I fill it out then? And so, you know, she had attitude, I had attitude. So I was like, I need to go to the bathroom. So I remember I got up, I went to the bathroom, came back in. So at this point, the doctor walks in. Now she has an attitude. So I was like, is it me? Because I'm the one who got broken boobs in this room. Not happened. So I got up and I walked out. So my husband and my mother are there, and they are looking like, what is going on? I was like, we cannot connect. This isn't going to work. And I explained to, you know, the surgeon, to the oncologist, the oncology surgeon. I was like, this isn't going to work. Like, I get you work with her. Her bedside manner is the worst. She's not going to treat me like I'm here because I don't have anything else to do. I said, and the fact that I waited all these hours for them to come in and want me to do stuff that I could have done, one, before I got here, and two, had they taken a minute to look in the computer, it was all there. I was like, you don't value my time and you don't value me as a patient. I cannot be your patient. So I ended up with a new plastic guy. He was amazing, blah, blah, blah. The day of surgery, she comes in and, you know, they're marking everybody up. So she's marking up the lady next to me. She was so rude to her. I mean, like, it was crazy how rude she was to this woman. The lady starts crying, okay? Here's what I need y'all to understand. A few minutes later, a woman comes in who is a nurse, and she's talking to the lady who's crying. That is that girl's mother, the one who's talking. The lady who's crying is the mother, okay? They both work at the hospital as nurses with this doctor. So I'm like, if you treat people that you work with like that, yeah. So I tell people all the time, I said, it is so important that you speak up, because had I not spoken up and she come in there and she literally said to the woman, she was like, come on, stand up. Come on. Let me see. You're moving. Like, she was the worst. Like, I felt like she was fitting her for a dress. Like, that's how she acted. Like, she was her seamstress and she was fitting her for a dress. I would not have had surgery that day, I promise you, because either I would have punched her in her face or I would have just walked out. Like, it would not have happened. And I felt so bad for that woman, because I'm like, you're already dealing with the emotions of surgery, of having cancer, of all of that. And then when you can't get a physician to treat you like something, let's not even talk about the fact that they work together. Like, it was just so much. And so I think for me, when it was all said and done, that's really what put me kind of on the advocacy train, because as I started sharing that story about, you know, my experience, there were so many other people who were like, yeah, you know, I didn't like my oncologist, but I was afraid to say something because I knew that they had my life in their hands. I was like, no, God has your life in his hands. That's it. I said, so what we want to do is we want to pray that he guides those hands, but it's too much stress when you know that you guys are at odds like that. And so you're dealing with that, then you're already dealing with this. It's just too much. So that is always my spiel to whomever, everybody, and people every day, like in these groups on Facebook. I don't know how many groups you guys are in, but in all the breast cancer groups, every day, somebody who is newly diagnosed says, the doctor told me to decide if I want a double mastectomy, a single, or a lumpectomy. Which one do you guys think is the best? I hate that question. Hate it. And I hate that doctors put it out there on people like that for them to try to process it. You can't, it's too much. It's too much. But Sharon, you had something you wanted to say. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I wanted to piggyback on two things. The first thing, you mentioned about second opinion and why do people stay versus firing a doctor. It's not, second opinions are, I feel, pretty easy because I was afraid. I was so scared. I got a second opinion. I wasn't satisfied. I got a third opinion. So finally, I'm like, okay, somebody's telling the truth. Now with second, third opinion, most hospitals need all your information. They need, I'm hearing a lot of noise. Is it coming from me? Anyway, they need every piece of paper. Some of the bigger hospitals, like I'm just going to name them. You are not getting a second opinion from Johns Hopkins until they have every piece of paper on you. Some people will make excuses, but they have a lot of record service that actually can get the records to them really fast. So that's one thing. If you're looking at a second opinion for your tumor, the tumor normally have to be put on a block of ice and overnight to them. So I was under the impression that a second opinion means, yeah, you read a report and that's your second opinion. And that's not true. They actually can retest the tumor and you ask a lot of questions. What lab? What is the error rate of that particular lab? So I think the first thing I would highly recommend to anyone with any type of serious or life-threatening disease, the first step would be to get a second opinion, third if necessary. But that's the first thing. The second thing I wanted to piggyback on, every day, just like you're saying, you're talking about the groups. Not only do they talk about the burns, and we heard, Survivor Tonight talk about the burns from radiation. They actually put the pictures on most of the site. And with research and with what I'm involved in, with clinical trials, it's a lot of things that's coming down the pipeline for its radiation. For example, we all know we don't hear anything good about triple negative, but I did partial radiation. So I cannot relate to any of the burns because my radiations was twice a day for 5 days a week. I was dying. So that's out there. Now studies have came out that saying that is just as successful as your regular radiation. Before that wasn't out, but that came out in Cancer Journal, December 2019. So that's an option for anybody that's listening out there. The other thing that is in research right now is proton and photon, and it's 30 sites around the U.S. that this is in a clinical trial, and this is radiation too. And it's real important about that one because we all know if breast cancer is on your left side, you worry about the heart being exposed. So I'm involved in that. I'm actually on the advisory committee on that. And again, it's 30 locations. So I just wanted to put that out there, advocate for yourself. You do not have to go along with whatever they plan is. I always say you're the captain of the ship. It's a partnership, but you are the captain. So take control, learn as much as you can about your illness, your disease, and then go from there. So I just wanted to add that in.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
And you're really, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, Sharon, you're absolutely correct with all these pictures that people post. I mean, among other things, the surgery scars, not the scars, but the like infections. And one, everyone's body is different. And I never share my radiation burn pictures. And I took a picture every day. So I have a lot of pictures. Let me just say that. But also, people, I don't want anything that I do to affect someone else's treatment. In a way that, because I'm not a doctor. So I don't want to influence or scare someone into not getting the treatment that could definitely save their lives. And I will tell you, if you see pictures of, because I'm told it's like every doctor and nurse that saw it said it was the worst they had ever seen. I probably had a court case. And it was really, really bad. But however, you know, that was my body. It was, I don't know if it's common at that hospital. I never say where I had my radiation because I don't want, I mean, you know, I just don't believe that it would happen to every single, I don't think it's common enough. I really think that my situation was an isolated situation. I was just thankful that I made it through. But yeah, definitely. And I didn't do a ton of, I didn't get a second opinion. And it was really because everyone almost to the syllable said the same thing. Everyone, and I was at I technically was diagnosed at Howard Hospital, but then I had my breast surgery at Providence Hospital here in DC. So, and it was because a lot of Howard doctors and surgeons move over to Providence, so they kept it in the family. But it was very straightforward in terms of my treatment. There was no ambiguity. There was no, well, if you do this, you could do this. The only thing that I had options in terms of when I have things done because I was stage 2, because I only had one positive lymph node and all the things. So I just, you know, wanted to say, I'm glad that you agree that sharing the pictures and kind of like, yeah, it's a little too much sometimes.
Yeah, you have people being diagnosed every day. So just like you said, we are not medical doctors. So if I'm newly diagnosed and I look at that, I can assure you some of what I see, I would not get radiation, period. It wouldn't be, you could not convince me to get any kind. You know, but it's more the negative instead of putting some of the positive out here. It's like, what is 5 days of radiation like? You go at 9, you go at 3, and 5 days it's over. Now you do have to go to surgery because they actually have to thread the breast. But of course, in surgery, you're asleep, so you don't feel anything. You have to wear a big shirt, you know, but it's absolutely no burns. So, you know, at that time, you know, studies hadn't came out saying how successful it is. Now it's out there. It's saying it's the same. Is just as successful. So I guess my question is that, you know, not every hospital will offer it, you know, but to me, it's worth taking a trip wherever it's offered because it's like, it's only 5 days and I'm done. So that,
The other thing with that is that you also have to understand is that oftentimes I think that patients, as we're in the midst, we don't realize that everything does not have to happen right where you are. And now the benefit is that most hospitals share information. So for me, we have 2 different hospital systems. Like my primary is at one hospital system and my oncologist at another, but I can give permission for her to log in and see my records without me having to log and bring everything there. So I think that's also something that people should recognize in terms of just treatment and activity and all of that. And so Sai wants us to talk about clinical trials. We're going to mention it briefly, but that is something that we're going to do for another day because that could take up hours in the conversation. So his question is anyone involved in any clinical trials and what are your thoughts about signing up for them? Sharon, I already know your thoughts, but you are more than welcome to go first if you like.
Okay. Yes, I participated in 2 clinical trials. One was in California. I'm in Richmond, and I actually had to travel to California every 90 days. So that came next to impossible. I'm actually being followed by the University of Penn. I have been in this clinical trial for 2 years now, going on 2 years. I'll finish, I think, January of 2021. I'm clinical trial biggest fan. I believe in them. I think I'm here today because that you get better care because you're always under someone care. You get access to new drugs sometime if it's a drug clinical trial. So I'm a huge fan for clinical trial. You just need to explain it and make sure that the one that you enter in, well, first of all, you have to qualify. So while you're thinking about getting into a clinical trial, you first have to see if you can qualify for a clinical trial. And cancer is an awful disease. I don't want to make any light that, yeah, it's a good disease. It's awful. So anything that I can do to help myself as well as help find a cure, I'm all in for it. So yes, I'm a huge fan of clinical trials.
Absolutely. So in fact, that is actually how I met Sharon, everybody. She and I were doing a clinical trial together and we got into this group and here we are. Does anyone else want to speak out on clinical trials?
I do. I am not in one.
Okay.
I am not in one. I've registered because of my gene mutation. My gene mutation is not BRCA1 or 2. Again, because I'm rare. So mine is RAD51C.
Wow.
And so now I am registered so that I know that when things do come up around this gene mutation, that, I'm in a registry where someone can contact me. But my advocacy and my activism is very much about the internal infrastructure of the clinical trial and sort of getting away from these disparities and trying to erase the narrative that we have such levels of mistrust over Henrietta Lacks and the Tuskegee experiment, when in fact we are not in trials because we've not been asked. And so how do we dismantle all of that narrative and get inside of who is the clinical investigator? Where's the diversity inclusion around the patient navigator who should be telling you about these trials, if not your oncologist? What should we be doing along the lines of every aspect of the clinical trial? How do we dismantle all of this structural stuff that keeps us as African American women from getting involved from the research design, right? How the trial has been designed to who is the face having you to sign this informed consent? What does that language look like and why is it so difficult for you to understand? Why are we not demanding from the leadership of pharmaceutical companies to do what's right and not come up with D&I statements and pledges, but to do internal hiring? And I do not mean a diversity and inclusion officer.
That was a whole mouthful that you just put out there. Absolutely.
Oh
and my biggest concern right now, realistically, around clinical trials is that with this new COVID vaccine that is being rushed through and all of the rumors that they want all of the underserved communities to participate and get it first and all of that. And so with all of that talk and that distrust that we have in our political leaders right now, people are going to shy away from clinical trials that they need to participate in, that are going to make a difference. And so for me, going through treatment at University of Penn, literally when you walk into your waiting area, there are people there like, hey, can I talk to you? Do you want to sign up? And they're trying to give you information. And I remember like my mom and my husband are like, why do you keep stopping to talk to these people? And I'm like, it's the scientist in me. I get it. If I don't participate, I can't make an impact so that my child is not dealing with this or my friend is not dealing with this. I have to be part of the solution. And I believe that that's the only way right now for me to do that. So hence the reason that I felt like everyone they brought to me, I was like, all right, come on, just give me this stuff. Let me sign. But I am very fearful that moving forward, they are not going to get a lot of people of color to participate because of all of the talk that we're hearing surrounding this new COVID vaccine. I don't know how.
I would like to piggyback on that because I think it's a beautiful thing for you to see all of these patient navigators in the lobbies now. But where were you in April when CNN was telling us African American people were disproportionately dying from COVID-19? Where were the pharmaceutical companies who were hiring all these Black patient navigators that's in your lobby? Why weren't they talking to the people who were being infected, who were being released after treatment? That was the time to build the trust and the relationship that we were here to help you, and that your participation with antibody testing, with plasma for the next African American who would contact COVID-19, I would hands down bet that anyone with a discharge papers in hand would have said, yes, I will sign this. I will give you my antibodies to help the next Black person that's going to come into this hospital. But
and just real briefly, I know we're not on COVID or whatever. That's not the subject tonight. But when we talking about African American and things like that, for example, different hospitals are doing different things. Based on your skin color, you might be sent directly back home, and someone else may give a bed. So that is still going on. So when we talk about that, I can assure you, and I'm speaking for a family member here tonight, you'll be sent back home so you can wait at home.
Mucinex and Tylenol.
Right. There you go. There you go. Exactly. And I know I already spoke on clinical trial. Let me say this. I found my own clinical trial. No one mentioned it to me at all. And I am on several boards now advocating that you still mention it. It's up to me. Just because you don't have it at this particular hospital, you still mention it or look in the database. You just don't assume, well, we got one, you qualify in California. You cannot answer, can I get to California? You just tell me, give me all my options. So I'm working on from that end as well.
All right, hey, there we go. Neosha, do you have something that you wanted to share? You look like you had something you wanted to say. No? Okay, wonderful.
I'm just over here in the amen corner. I didn't, participate in anything, but I will say when I told a group of my sorors from my collegiate chapter, like my dean, my line sisters, and a couple others I was close to, one of them, she works for a biomedical company in Houston, and she said, if you need to come to MD Anderson, I have a room. She's like, they have a lot of clinical trials going on in this area. My company deals with them in a way. And that was like a huge offer. And because I knew a few nurses and people in the medical field, that was helpful. But my hat's off to anyone who has the mutations and has the gene, because that's to me, that is where I think I would have been scared, because a lot of times the doctors really don't know which way to go with you, especially I know with triple negative for sure. One of my close girlfriends is triple negative, and she's doing proton therapy, if I'm not mistaken. And she's applied for some clinical trials in Maryland. And I don't know if they were through Johns Hopkins or not, but yeah, I think it's awesome that they are saving lives beyond the person that's being
absolutely.
Right now. That's what I think. That's what's key. Like, I have eggs frozen. If I don't use those eggs, I've already signed them off. Use them for any kind of research that you need. So I'm a firm believer in faith and science.
Okay, wonderful. Love to hear it. All right, ladies. So we are rounding up to our 1 hour mark.
We need another hour.
I know. We're gonna come back and do this again. Like I said, we can't just talk about breast cancer in October. We have to continually talk about it. We have to continually educate ourselves, the people around us, and so we'll be back. This will not be the last discussion we have.
I wish that we could have talked about dating after breast cancer. That includes life too.
So here's the thing: I got a husband, so like but we can.
And it's funny because a lot of survivors do. It's not a lot of us who are single, childless. I noticed that because a lot of my friends in the groups and everything, it's hard to find people. I mean, a few people are like divorced, but yeah, man, that's a whole nother.
So one topic I do have coming up is an educator that is going to come on, and she's going to talk about sex after breast cancer, but the dates get finalized. Look, she like, I don't want to hear about that.
No, I'm like, that's interesting.
You have to have a date before you have sex.
Listen, I didn't say that you had. Listen, no, that's not true. Stop it. So my final question to you ladies is this: for the woman who is starting her journey tomorrow, what is the advice you give to her to look forward to on the other side? Did I stomp all of you? You're like, anybody, whoever wants to go.
When starting her journey tomorrow, just starting, just been diagnosed, just starting. Is that what
however you want to interpret just starting? It could be she is at the beginning of her treatment. She could be at the beginning of embracing her new normal. She could be at the beginning of literally she just left the doctor's office and they told her you have breast cancer.
Okay. Have faith above all. Have hope. Surround yourself with positive people.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of time, friends become strangers during cancer, and strangers become friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
And stay off the internet. Stay completely off. The internet will have you dying in an hour and you haven't even started treatment. So stay off the internet. It just completely stay off the internet. That would be my advice. That would be mine.
All right. Who's next?
I'm next. My first advice is you don't have to make any decisions right away. I don't care what anybody tells you. That cancer is not like Pac-Man going through your body the minute they tell you you've been diagnosed. You have time. You have time to make an intelligent decision.
Yeah. I
do say, if you're going to go on the internet, don't do Dr. Google.
Nope.
Don't do WebMD, but go on PubMed and type in your cancer type. I say go to breastcancer.org and learn about what just happened to you, what you should expect from the mammograms, through the biopsies, through the treatment. And then on the other side of it is that there is going to be a new normal. That is just not a term that we use. It is going to be a new normal that is going to be fraught with side and ill and upside down effects. And it is going to be incumbent upon you to see how you're going to respond to all this. If you're going to have a pity party every day, it is going to be, I like to say, deleterious to your health. It is not going to be a good thing. You're going to be moaning and groaning and complaining. I do not believe in fighting cancer, and it was a battle and all that, because cancer is going to kick your behind, and chemo is going to sweep you up off the floor. So you're not doing any fighting with cancer and chemo. You are going to do your very best to stay alive through both, and you're going to learn how to become a new person with this diagnosis.
I love that. Yeah, because oftentimes when people pass, and then it's like they lost their fight. I'm like, no, because we weren't even fighting. We weren't even in the same playing field. Like that's like I had a knife and he had a gun. Like what? No.
Exactly.
Like go ahead, Neil Shelley, your turn.
I never looked at it like that because I love the term fight. I have it on one of my pins. It's like a boxing glove. I got it from a lady at church. But I like it because I did feel like I was fighting. At times I was fighting to get up just to, put on clothes to go to chemo that day, or, and I feel like something that I was trying to think of, what haven't y'all said, because y'all was dropping jewels and I was like, yes. But I will say, laugh, smile. Don't ever look like your situation. Something
yes, girl, because you fierce. Yes.
Treatment this morning.
Come on, somebody. And that was me, bald, flat chested, my stomach, for some reason, I guess a lot of people do after they have the mastectomy, it just like stuck out. So I looked real wobbly, like a cartoon character almost. But my face stayed beat. I am ambidextric, so I learned how to draw my own eyebrows. I had no stencils, no microblading, none of that stuff. I drew my own eyebrows. These are mine right now, but but when I didn't have eyebrows. But laugh. No, don't look like your situation as much as you can.
Yeah.
Smile. Yeah. Cancer wants you to be sad because it allows it to grow and party up in your body, And also another thing, and something that y'all didn't mention, and I feel like I thought y'all maybe would, is my dad had myeloma in 2013. He had a stem cell transplant, beat it. Now he did pass away, but that's a whole nother thing. But and something he told me when I was diagnosed was, one, always, smile wherever you go, but also take like a notebook or something with you to every appointment. Because people don't think about that. And my dad was one of those people that always had a book with him. He wasn't a traditionally educated man, but he always had a book with him anyway. But he said, take a notebook, because you're going to forget stuff when you leave there, or you may have a question and you need to ask somebody else or whatever. But another thing is community. Community has been, man, I ain't even gonna mess up my makeup tonight, but community has been my lifeline, because I live in a city where I have no biological family here. I have, I built my own village. I've lived in the DC area for almost 15 years. So I was a young adult moving here, didn't know nobody. Moved here, girl, with a per diem check. But I built my village, and I lost a lot of friends, and I'm still mourning those losses. I'm not gonna lie. I even lost 3 friends who helped me in my journey, and 3 friends in 3 months to death. One died on my birthday. So, but if I didn't have my communities online, I wouldn't even be here, especially because I wouldn't have known Tamika. I met her through the Young Survival Coalition, So community has been a blessing. I'm in my cancer ministry at church, but I'm a social person. I'm an extrovert. That's how I, but I've become more of an introvert through cancer, because I like to be by myself sometime now. But I think community, laugh often and have that notebook with you when you go to your appointments is important too. But if you're just starting, especially, because there's going to be so much, as y'all have mentioned, coming at you. And I was fresh off of a PhD journey, so building my team and and the thing is that my doctors respected my education to the point where they were giving me data, so I got to see the data. Whatever they wanted to present me with, they was like, well, here's the research, look over it, tell me what you think. Okay. So I had a really respectful team, and I also knew how to build a team because I had to build a dissertation committee, and I knew how to, and I built them very well. So I knew that I needed a team that would communicate and that was going to be respectful. And I'm glad I didn't have doctors that were rude or were withholding information. So I was blessed in that regard, to be honest.
All right.
Just real quick, Tamika, can I just say something about for his hair? A lot of times, the wigs, the weave, but for me, I was devastated when my hair fell out. but I want to say it will come back, and it start growing back really quick. I would say within 6 months. So you definitely don't worry about it. It definitely will come back. And I just want to say to Kimberly, because she know a lot of people here in Richmond, she know Dr. Wynn. If she need radiation, it's partial radiation. And I do have an extra bedroom. That's it. So you're welcome.
Wonderful. So
that part, right? That part.
The hair
I got you.
discussion is also going to be something that we talk that I bring forth, that we talk about, because I think that was something that I did throughout the groups where people are struggling with, the whole cutting their hair, the whole losing their hair, all of that. And I realized that I was just a little different. My focus was on something else. So I didn't care. Hence the reason I didn't even grow my hair back. So I was like, I don't want to be bothered with it. And I'm loving not being bothered with it. But what I want to say, finally, before we close, once again, is thank you, ladies, for coming on here and sharing your experiences. I hope you will join me again. Just because Breast Cancer Month, as I stated, is over, my plan is once a month to just come on and really just talk about some topic that is affecting our communities. Breast cancer will always be at the top of mind just because it's kind of, what I do day in and day out. But I want us to talk about other topics as well. Today, I actually put out a post where I talked about finding joy in the midst. And it was really about finding joy in the midst of breast cancer, because I remember after I was diagnosed and I told my family, my sister actually texted my mom and said, is she serious? Does she really have breast cancer? Because why isn't she like in a corner somewhere? Like, why isn't she crying? And it was just how I dealt with it. And
I got that a lot too. I was just like you, Tamika. I did not cry, oh, whoa, it's me. I wasn't that person.
Right, exactly. And I think that, those are the sides and things that we want people to just see along the journey. So anyone that's out there, if you're interested, head to lifeandpumps.com and you will see the post that I did today. It's called Pretty in Pink, Finding Joy in the Midst of Breast Cancer. So once again, ladies, thank you for joining me. And guys, for you all out there, thanks for coming to, once again, Tea Talk number 2, because normally there's only 1 on Thursday. And I will see you all next week for Tea Talk Thursday. I don't know what I'm going to be talking about, but I'll let you know soon. Thanks again, ladies. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you all. Bye.
Bye-bye.